Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Welcome to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. This is your host, Steve Fielder. Really happy to be coming to you once again. This podcast will air on Monday, March the 6th. I'm recording it on February 27th, 1 week before. And this past weekend was an especially interesting and rewarding weekend for me as I sat at home and watched my friends out there having a great time in this great sport of coon hunting. A local friend here, Gordy Schroeder, was able to capture a PKC cast win over the weekend with his Grand Night Champion Plot dog. And you know I have a special place in my heart for the Plots. So congratulations to Gordy, who picked up some money in the Don Mullins Memorial Hunt that they hold down here at Citra, Florida each year at this time. The other thing that was real significant for me is my partner, Mark Miller, who he and I partner on the Plot dog, Bearpin Fever. But Mark had a Treeing Walker stud dog named Hardwood Dreamer. And Dreamer was a Grand Night Champion, an HTX designated coon hound, a very popular dog. He has passed on, but just this weekend at Southeastern Treeing Walker Days, Mark's Hardwood Dreamer was inducted into the Southeastern Treeing Walker Hall of Fame. So I want to be sure and send congratulations out to my friend and buddy and partner, Mark Miller. And then the big news this weekend, and man, they kept me up late watching this thing unfold, but the Pro Sport organization held a truck hunt in Claremore, Oklahoma. And my good friend Randy Smith with Lone Pine Kennels and his new partner, John Strickland, had just a terrific weekend as the Lone Pine Lady female not only made it into the Final Four, but actually won the whole enchilada, treeing a couple of coons on the cast. It was televised by Josh Michaelis with the Joy organization, and it was just a great time, and a great time for me, especially to see my friend doing so well. And as a special treat to you, the listener, I have Randy Smith on the program with me today, fresh off this big win. So, Randy, just how does that feel to you?
It was really good. She has been operating for John just like a machine, and he had a really good feeling about it. And, we just kind of followed close back and forth the whole time that he was down there. I knew that after there's so many things that can go right, or there's so many things that can go wrong. And she just ended up on the right end of everything this weekend there. She treated a couple coons to, I think, one other dog's one on each cast that she was on. I think that's how it went pretty much. But you know how things could go. Her first round there, John ended up squalling two coons out of dens to score for her, which, if you get one of those, oh my, yeah. And to hear that character tell it, it really is funny.
Well, I thought about getting John on this podcast this morning with you, but I knew you probably wouldn't get a word in edgewise,
We fight for that whenever we talk,
I got you. John Strickland's a guy that I've known for a long time. I immediately liked him when I first met him. It was back in my PKC days. He was hunting a blue dog back then. It wasn't country. It was way before big country's time. And here's this guy from down around Savannah, Georgia, and I enjoyed talking to him at the hunts. And then with his relationship with Jeff Rickless, with the bad habit dog and all those years and all down through. I've just always enjoyed John's friendship and appreciate him when he'll stop by the booth at one of the major events where I am. And here lately, he's been with his partner, Ashley Oxendine, and always great to see those guys. I wanted to ask you, Randy, you made a decision a while back. Well, let's go back and just lay a little bit of groundwork on this phenomenal winner that you have here. Lady, let's tell Lady's story real quick. Go back as far as you want to go and let people know about this little dog.
Yeah, well, her mother was Baby, like about my all-time favorite. She was the true Cadillac Coon dog, and that was the first cross that I made with her was with, at the time, Kevin Cable owned him, Little Money there. And the reason we chose him is because we had drawn him several times. And, in Thin Coon, he was really, really tough to beat, as wide a hunting dog as you could handle. And, he had the goods every time he got planted. And we just picked him because he was for real and he had an outstanding pedigree, and his mother was a great reproducer, his father, and so on and so forth. So that's why we picked him, and it's been golden for us.
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah.
I know I've kind of beat this horse to death. Seems like I get on the story sometimes, and I don't want to let it go. But I'll never forget that Wednesday night that you and I were sitting in your Can-Am, I call it Coon Hunter's Cadillac there, and on a windy hill, and you flipped Lady in there, and wow, man. I mean, we sat there and watched her on the drive track, and I was really impressed with the way she hunted, considering, for any dog really, but considering she was only 8 months old at the time.
Yeah, I could reliably go and treat coons with her at 5 months old. Just depending on conditions and everything, of course, but she would hunt out and get after a coon and have it when she treed almost every time from 5 months old. The first that I knew that she was a different kind of animal. I have a pest control business here, and there's always animals here, and I set a cage coon out in the driveway here, and she was running loose like all my pups do before I start them. And she was probably 3 months old, and she just, as soon as she come around the turn there and seen that coon, she was just locked on that cage, just like, she'd been fooled with 10 times. I knew I had to keep her. She was just crazy about it, and she was really easy to start. And, once I had her going really good, and I think we made her a night champion. I'm not sure about that, but Austin Ewing, he was looking to hunt a dog, and so I, gave interest to Austin. His dad and his uncle hunted with me as we were growing up, and I was really thrilled to see the boy was wanting interest in coon hunting. So he took Lady up for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or something like that. Did a lot of winning with her. And we had her in, I don't know how many pro sport hunts or whatever. And John had drawn her, I think he told me 6 times. And I think he said she beat him like 5 out of 6, or I might be wrong about the numbers, but that's close. And John was wild about her, so how it lined up with John was talking to Greg Maynard. I think Greg was looking for a dog, and John told him if I was looking to buy one, it would be her. So Greg called me, and I wasn't interested in selling Lady, period. Mm-hmm. And so then John called me, and well, I think he actually messaged me or something, and the text was, "How much for the bitch?" Just like that, And so John, we ended up talking, and I just told John I'm not interested in selling her, but you're more than welcome to be partners with her, and you can take her and you just do your thing, So last fall at the PKC World Hunt, we took her out and John took her home. And he's been, just constantly after her as far as making sure she was in top physical condition and conditioned to go and everything. And they're like one now, and, he's ready to go with her. And it was just all the stars lined up, and that was it. Prayers were answered,
Well,
truck,
I know that's probably been a goal of yours to win a truck with your hounds, these Lone Pine hounds, and you are intertwined. You don't think of one without the other, and to see her attaining at that level, and you and I have talked about this before, but you live in a part of the country where you're not really in the mainstream of competition hunting there in western Pennsylvania. And your handlers have done a remarkably good job with your dogs. But to get them on the major stage like this pro sport truck hunt to me was a very wise move on your part, because that gets the dogs out there where they really can do what they were bred to do.
Yeah, sure. It was I'll say this, that when John called me and we made the deal and everything, it was the most flattering conversation that I'd ever had, is from beginning until now, as far as somebody talking to me about that dog. He remembered every tree that she made, everything that happened. He said everything. There were ways that there was no way she was going to win that cast, and she just would pull it out, over and over again. And so, it was really a true blessing to have him want to be involved with her, and.
Well, I would agree on that part for sure. And if I can be so bold, it's my show and my opinion, and that's. But I've known John for many years, and I know that his partner and friend Judas Bowling called him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I don't know if that's true or not, but I will say that I think that John Strickland is the greatest competition hunting mind in the sport today.
Undoubtedly.
He knows the sport inside and out, and it hasn't been an armchair experience for him. He amazes me. John is not a big man in stature, and he's out there. I watched the Joy presentation of the final cast of the truck hunt. Finally got around to watching it last night, and these guys are younger than John, many of them. They're also longer legged, but John is one tough customer, and he knows. He just knows. Let's leave it at that. I'm impressed.
He knows, and you cannot change the heart in a person or an animal. Heart has sometimes way more to do than stature, and he's got the heart. He's got the heart of a lion, He's ready to roll.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, it was great, and I will say, Lady, looked good. She got out there, really hunted wide. I think the last tree they walked to her was over a mile. Maybe you'd remember how far, but. Anyway, it was a great win with some great dogs, some of the top handlers in the game. Were out there. You got, Dustin Weed on that cast. You've got Lane Denny on that cast. Lane, of course, had won the UKC World Hunt, and I don't know what all.
Yeah, sure.
And then this young guy, this phenom that's coming up, the Costco kid.
John said he's really sharp, a really nice kid.
And
it was all good.
Yeah.
Isn't it great to see so much on the line, and those guys are just striking their dogs and they're treeing the dogs,
That's
and
right.
there's not one. Scotty and Greg are doing a fantastic job as far as high level competition. There is nothing that's going to be done there that they're going to put up with,
Right.
And the guys know that, and they're sportsmen, and there's no, whenever they are calling the cast out, they say the deadline is midnight, but if you're running a little late, just give us a call and let us know. I mean, it's all reasonable, and it's
common sense,
professional. It's the best. Yep.
Common sense. I saw years and years ago, this was a story that came to me for the years before I was at UKC. Black and Tan Days, Florida, Illinois, there's a train track you had to go over to get back in at some point to the fairgrounds.
Right.
A train came by and stopped on the tracks. The casts were lining up on the highway trying to get back by the deadline, and them saying, no, if you don't get back by the deadline, your card's no good. Now, how on earth could these guys help that?
Yep, exactly.
Total,
that stuff to me is just like totally ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
you have to use common sense. It's
Right.
like, you can't be just that rigid like that. I mean, everybody is out there doing everything they can, including guides, including the people putting the hunt on. The hunters have traveled. They've left their families. I mean, everything. So, why would you not accommodate people?
I liked when I went to PKC to see that they had what they call the common sense rule, that not all situations are going to be covered in that rule book, and you have to sometimes call on common sense. But well, listen, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, now, Lady's not the only winner in that litter that she came out of. You've got the bank dog.
He's done really well. He was a wild man from the get go, and Frank Giddings had him up there for a month, and we went after I got him started here, and he's never looked back since. He was a natural go yonder, sitting there under a coon type of dog, and he's been there since. And out at the hunt, John called me and said, we got a place for Bank down here. So Bank's already headed down into Kentucky.
Okay. So, there you heard it first on the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Folks, I didn't know that myself. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. So hopefully he's going to get some more exposure. He's been really good to us. He's a platinum champion and got in the Final Four of his first Super Stakes. And I think he's about a 3 or 4 time world finalist now, and they're just coming 4 years old here or whatever. So,
well, that was what I was going to ask you. I was thinking that they were getting pretty close to 4. So,
yeah, I can't tell you for sure what the birth date is, but they're close. Yeah. Yep.
Well, the amazing thing to me was I know that John Strickland, again, had a big winning female at the time that you and him agreed to partner. And so he still, I believe, has the Page female, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's waiting on her to come in heat now. So the plan is to, had Lady ready for that hunt and so forth, and she's going to go here, not this weekend coming up, but next weekend to one in Alabama, I believe.
Well, that's a bad problem to have, isn't it? Just to have all these good dogs at your... But that doesn't come easy and at little expense.
That's right.
I'm sure.
But, John, he's already just talked to me this morning. He says, "Come and get this truck." It's couldn't really be any better. They're great people, and I feel really privileged to be involved. I knew it had possibilities to be, a great thing, and it's panning out. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, I heard this many years ago, and I've used it kind of as a rule of thumb of judging a person, their character or whatever. The old thing, ask yourself, would you like to get in the truck and ride 500 miles with the guy? And I can imagine, man, what the stories would roll on that 500-mile ride with John Strickland. That would be awesome.
He remembers every tree from the beginning.
I
He
know
does
it.
every situation.
It's amazing. I was raised by a guy like that. He wasn't a competition hunter, but my dad was that way about his hunts. He had amazing recall of every situation that happened on a hunt. With me, I was just kind of out there, drifting along, blowing along with the breeze. But man, he knew every rock, every tree they went by, and which side of the tree the moss was growing on.
Oh, that's a special person. That's when you know that it's what you live for.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, and we might as well, while we're talking about things like that, you've got a female there and a pretty sharp handler in your oldest boy, Troy, and his Bertha female.
Yeah, she's an up and coming rock star. She's really, I call her the warrior princess. She's really tough. She never gives up. She's a wide hunter. She can trail a coon up or fall under one, and she's got big things headed her way. I'm hopeful for her anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
Randy, I'm thankful to you, and it's our friendship has developed now over these last few years to where I feel like family when I'm around you and your family, and I've been fortunate to hunt with several of these really nice dogs that you have, and my goal in this podcast is not to be the spokesperson for Lone Pine Kennels, but I have really enjoyed the opportunity to come up and to hunt with dogs like Lady and Bank and Bertha and Fran and Shot and I don't know. Well, of course, the cruise dog that I got from you, and now we've got this Frogger baby that we're working with, and she is a wild child. I mean, she gets in the dark and doesn't care what's going on around her and all. That brings up, as we're talking here, and we've been at it 21 minutes already, and we thought we'd do about 30, so I want to be brief, but you have made some crosses to the Davis's Rosedale Frogger dog. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, my buddy Eric Pyatt had him for, most of his competition career, and Eric's really picky, and he knows what a coon dog is and what they're supposed to do, and he's real good at bringing it out of them. And so, I've always had him on my mind. I like his pedigree. He's a Lone Pine bred dog, but he's a outstanding individual himself. And then once they started using him in the breeding pen, which they only were artificial breeding. So the first couple females I bred were bred artificial, and he seems to be a dominant reproducer in mouth and style and things of that nature. And he's really opened up a lot of eyes. And I'll tell you, I thought here, like after the Bone Collector type of thing and him being a top stud dog, that it seemed like the days of a dog having a path beat to his door were probably over, because, you can super stakes a litter on any dog now. And so that was a factor. And it just seemed like people were using more of local dogs and not traveling and everything like that. Well, this seems to, I think the best females in the country are going to Frogger right now.
Yeah.
And he's breeding 3 or 4 a week. Birchall is as great a fella to deal with as you could possibly get. So I bred Jill first, then I bred shot to Frogger, artificial. And then Sue came in heat. And Sue's 11 years old. And so I'm thinking, I'm not giving up on her. She's had reproductive issues from the first time I ever bred her. I only got one pup out of her and bone. And it's been, right. a roller coaster ride with her. So I called Birchall and they started breeding Frogger live. And I said, would you breed her as long as she stands? Cause that's my only hope, that this old gal could maybe give us another pup or two. Well, he took her out there and did, and wouldn't you know it, she caught, and she has 3 live pups. She had one born dead, and then a week after she had the pups, Amy called me and said, Sue's not acting right. Well, Sue's never had a day or a moment in her life that she didn't act right. She's just a beast of a female. And so I just dropped everything and ran out and got her. I said, I got to get her somewhere. I could just see in her eyes that she had a pup stuck in her for a week.
Wow.
So they pulled the pup out, and she was so weak that she wouldn't jump in the truck. And she don't just jump in the truck. She jumps through the back of the dog box whenever you put her in the truck.
Right.
So I took her back to Amy, and we got her laid down and got the pups back on her. And I just said, I don't know, Amy. The vet, they got her antibiotics, and I always have a case or two of that A&D. It's like an emergency dog food, like we feed it to dogs between rounds on competition hunts and stuff. And I went out to the truck and got a few cans of that. She ate 3 cans just out of my hand, just like that. And I said, well, if she's eating,
right.
Amy called me 2 hours later and said she had her outside. She couldn't hardly hold on to her. And I just brought her home, but we're weaning the pups today. And she looks like she's 4. Yeah. She looks like she's 4 years old.
Oh, man, what a beautiful female. She is a big female. Yep. And I had, again, we were talking about, or I mentioned getting to hunt with some of these terrific hounds of yours, that I happened to be on a cast the night before she won the 2016 UKC World Championship, and looked really good doing it too. So against all odds, Rick's first big level competition hunt against the best guys in the business on the Final Four. Yeah. The best guys, the best dogs. She won by a quarter, but it may as well have been 500. That's as good as a mile in this game. That's
sure. That's right.
Oh, man.
So we've got 3 pups, and Birchall's going to take one, and I'm keeping one, of course. They're 3 males, and I've had so much inquiries about the male we're going to sell, and we've decided we're going to do a raffle here once we decide, who's keeping which one and everything like that. And we get, good pictures once they get a little bit of size to them here. And that's the way we're going to do it, so that everybody that wants a chance can get one.
Well, that's certainly fair enough. And that'll be coming up. We'll talk about it here, and I imagine it'll be posted on social media and Facebook and so forth. So, guys, an opportunity to get a pup out of Frogger. Everybody wants one, seems like these days, and a UKC World Champion female. Man, that's got to be exciting. I know that those spots are going to go really fast. So watch for them. Well, Randy, what's the plans coming up? I mean, you got any big hunts coming up? You're gonna? Yeah,
we're the first hunt I think that we're going to go to of the large scale is going to be the TOC here coming the end of the month here. We've got six dogs that are going to be hunting in it. We're excited about that. And then we'll just see where the season takes us. But hopefully this is the beginning of a good year for us.
Well, I know the breeding situation with ladies is going to be a while down the road. It seems, if I've been paying attention, that you get these really nice winning dogs like Baby, like Shot, and Sue, and so forth. And you pretty much, as long as they're on top of their game, you're out there competing with them, aren't you?
Yeah, we've put off breeding the females. We used to breed them younger, and it works a lot better as far as raising large, healthy litters if the female is younger. But when we have one that can, win at a high level like that, well, that's the only ones that we use in the breeding program. We're going to compete with them longer and just maybe get 2 or 3 litters out of them, and that's going to be it, maybe. But we've shifted a little bit about what's the priority, and it's a shame to breed them young, and because it takes a lot out of a female whenever they're bred. When you start using them for breeding, they're never the same as far as
right
competition goes.
So it's probably a hormonal thing for one thing, and that goes both ways. That affects them physically and mentally.
Yes.
And so, well, you certainly seems like you've fallen upon a good formula or a good system with these dogs, and they just keep producing. You've got a female, I think that Rick's been hunting here lately, the Bella female, that's just a real star too.
Yeah, she's a warrior, and she is unbelievably accurate. I mean, whenever she's hooked up, she has a coon. You can hear her 2 miles, and she'll go as far as she needs to. If things fall apart, she'll just pack it up and be somewhere where there's a coon living. And she's you've hunted with her. She's deadly.
Another
off the
one
recon.
that absolutely.
Yeah, she's a real sweetheart of a dog. My buddy Gordy Drenek put a lot of time into her, and yep, we've got a paddock full of them. So
we'll talk about some of those up and coming stars. There's more that I wanted to talk to you about, but we've used up our 30 minutes. Randy, I did want to say that, a lot of guys like to look back into history, and they look back to Gene Harrison, I believe, and Duvall and Blaine McGill and all these guys, and associate that with Lone Pine Dogs, and they were associated with. But it's been you and your partner Tom Strang and guys that have joined in with you that have really brought this into the next phase or next chapter for these Lone Pine Dogs. And I commend you for that. And I hope you'll keep breeding them, because I enjoy coming and hunting with them.
Well, it's been life's work for me, and it's been, there's ups and downs to it all, but we've been really on an up level here for a good many years, and just working real hard to keep it that way. That's all. Well,
once again, I'll congratulate you as my friend and brother, really, and for the amazing win that you and John pulled off this last weekend. We'll be looking for a lot more of them, and I'm hoping that I know that you're going to be doing some video. You want to talk about that a little bit, or is that something that's under wraps?
Yeah, Clayton Stark called me about just doing his videos that he does on different coon hunters and dogs and everything, and so he's going to come next month there, and I talked to him about once we're done with what footage he wants to do, his half-hour YouTube channel type of thing, that we're going to do a kind of a more of a promotional and a layout of what we have here for me personally to have, so it'll be a YouTube video and all too, and then we'll get to showcase, maybe go into a little bit more about what they are and where we're headed, so that should go over really good. He does a super job.
Well, if you'll have me and promise me to at least go over by Shirley's and see what she's been baking, I'll come up and stand back in the wings a little bit and watch you guys while you're producing this. I'm really looking forward to seeing this because Clayton does a great job. I think he's the number one guy out there with a light and a camera in the sport today. Not to throw shade on anyone else, but Clayton just does a great job, and that should be really a lot of fun. And
we're really excited about it.
Sure, absolutely. Really, well, Randy, I appreciate you for your time today. I know you're a busy man, and I know probably your phone's been ringing and texts coming in and all with congratulations. But I wanted to say how much I appreciate everybody. Support that I've had and the people buying pups and all that through the years. It couldn't happen without a lot of help. I've had so many people help me through the years to get to where we are right now that, it's just really humbling to have such good people to stand up whenever I'd need a hand or whatever it is. It's really great. Well, I know that comes back to you too, Randy. Those folks are happy to be associated with you and proud of what you've been able to accomplish. So, all right, folks, that's Randy Smith with Lone Pine Kennels in Katanning, Pennsylvania. Fresh off a big win in the Pro Sports Series, he and his partner John Strickland winning a new truck with Lone Pine Lady. Randy, thanks for coming on. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, we sure enjoyed that conversation with Randy Smith. And now I'm really pleased to bring to the microphone a young man that I met for the first time at the recent Grand American down in Orangeburg, South Carolina. But I feel like I should have known him for a long time because I've known his family. And we're going to talk about that. And I wanted to bring this guy on to the program because I think he epitomizes the young hunter today, and even carries it a step further because he's excited about the sport. He might be embarrassed by me saying he's a very articulate young man, very straightforward, friendly guy that I liked right away when I met him. So I wanted to bring him on the podcast because I think he's going to have a lot of good things to talk about today. So from Charles County, Maryland, Mr. Tom Gilroy. How you doing, Tom?
Good. How about yourself, Steve?
Oh, man, I am doing great for an old man. I used to work with a guy. He said, well, I was able to sit up and take nourishment this morning, so everything's good.
Yes, sir. Every blessing.
It is. Every day is a gift, for sure. Well, Tom, we talked about this a minute ago in our show prep that you're 21 years old.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Like I said, I'm 21. I live in Maryland, and I do home improvement. I can paint your house. I can drywall it. Anything under the roof, I can do it. And I coon hunt just about every night that I can, weather permitting and health, all that stuff. But I own Yadkin River coon hound dogs, and I like them white and I like them big.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, Tom, as we mentioned before, my connection to you was through our mutual friend, Jim Meeks.
Yes, sir.
And Jimmy, the wild man Meeks. And, of course, Jim's he's been on the podcast a few times with me, and I can't get enough of talking to that guy. It's always so much fun. And we do see each other each year at the Grand American and usually at Southeastern Tree and Walker Days, which I want to talk to you about in just a minute. But
yes,
for whatever reason, the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't been up to the Southeastern. And I miss it because I went so many years when I was with UKC. And it's a great gathering, and it's a great time always in February each year. But and that's where I first met your dad.
Okay.
Yeah, and David.
Yes, sir.
And I met your uncle, Gordon Gilroy.
Yes, sir.
And I think when I last spoke with Jimmy Meeks, we talked about the fact that Gordon owned the Yadkin River Crowder dog.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so, I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about your background, your family's background with these Walker dogs.
Okay.
And then to kind of get your perspective on things because, as I said, I'm 76 years old. And as a friend in West Virginia said, I'm standing in the checkout line. I mean, this coon hunting thing is the light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully it's not an oncoming train.
Yeah, right.
But at any rate, I enjoy speaking to the younger hunters. I really do. And I've been reprimanded a little bit by some of them, but say, well, when you speak about young hunters, you tend to kind of, disparage them a little bit. You kind of talk like they don't maybe measure up or don't know what they're doing. And I certainly don't intend to do that whatsoever. But I do encounter a lot of young hunters that are really not rooted in the sport very well. They've come into it, by whatever means, a friend of a friend. They, for whatever reason, they've gotten involved. But they don't seem to know the fundamentals of the game. And it's up to guys like me and you to teach them and to do it in a way that's not condescending and, in any way meant to sound like I know everything and they don't. But I certainly don't want to do that. But tell me a little bit about your family's history with the Tree and Walker dogs, if you can share that with us.
Yes, sir. So in the early 1980s, my great uncle Gordon and my father, David Gilroy, both went down to Jimmy's. And I believe Gordon had went there before my dad, but my dad was about 14 when when they hauled his female. They called her David's Dinah. And she was out of Tidewater Shep. And they drove down to Jimmy's and bred that Dinah female to Jimmy's Jeff dog. And everybody has heard of Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
So, Yep. So they bred that, and that's where we talked about it before the call started. The Crowder dog,
right? That's
where the Crowder dog come from. And then Dad and Gordon always went down to Jimmy's and Buster's and would go up and hunt with Frank Giddings and stuff like that. They went all over the world.
Yeah,
and they kept it line breeding and made sure that they weren't just breeding for people's preferences and this, that, and the other. They bred for what they wanted to hunt. And then they bred Crowder to a female off of, let me see here. They bred sorry, Steve.
No problem.
They bred Crowder to Honey Creek Babe. I'm not sure if that's an older name before my time. And they got what they called Yadkin River Junior. Well, they bred Junior to a female of Champ, and that created Yadkin River Cruiser. That was my dad's star dog. How Gordon had Crowder, my dad had Cruiser. And we got a female off Cruiser and another Yadkin River female that goes back to Yadkin River Rock and Yadkin River Rainy and stuff like that. And so we bred that female. We called her Yadkin River Gigi. We bred Yadkin River Gigi to Yadkin River Kurt. Well, that was Jimmy's dog, and he goes back to Tar Heel Lee and Nitro and all them good dogs. And we got a puppy off that, and we called him Champ. Now, beyond popular belief, it is not the same Champ that Jimmy owned.
Right.
So we just called him that because he was almost a spitting image. I mean, I can't say he was as looking the same as Champ, but he looked more like him than a lot of dogs I've seen.
I see.
And so just kind of rambling on here.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to get down to what we have today.
Okay, absolutely. Go ahead.
So with that dog we called Champ, I had collected him. I got into coon hunting for myself. I've always hunted since I was 6 years old and deer hunted and duck hunted and all that. But coon hunting, really, I started when I was 6 and kind of took a little break there when I was about 13, 14. And
didn't have
got back.
anything to do with girls, did it?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
I've never done that, man. I'm a straight guy, but I ain't never chased no girls.
Okay, I got you.
I like chasing dogs, Steve.
Yeah, man.
So,
I hear you.
Um,
Okay, well, you grew up in a hunting family, of course,
yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir, no doubt.
And
no doubt.
but so go ahead with your story about where you your journey down to this point, up to this point.
Yes, sir. So, it's coming up on 4 years now. I've started hunting for myself, and I have a hell of a hunting partner, David Bailey. That joker will go through the toughest, roughest stuff you can put him in, and he won't say nothing. He won't back down, nothing. My brother's the same way, and his name, you met him, Sam Gilroy.
Sure. Yes, I did. He must have pushed you away from the table.
I got the short end of the stick, didn't I, Steve?
He's a tall drink of water, as we used to say.
It wasn't much messing with him. No, sir.
I hear you. How much younger is he than you?
He is 14 months younger, so he's
okay.
He's 20. I'm 21.
All right.
And David's been hunting with me since he was 14. He's 18 now. So
there are 3 of you boys then.
Yes, sir. Yes,
right.
sir. I tell you, I want to say something, Stephen. I don't mean to cut you off, but
no,
a lot of people look at my Facebook page and think just Tom Gilroy. There's a lot more to me and what I do than just my namesake. You know what I mean? It's just There's more dogs and people involved than a lot of people give credit to.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good that you recognize that. I just talked to Randy Smith, and of course, he's had a great deal of success breeding Walker dogs, but he's always very quick to recognize the people that helped him, to get to that point.
Yep.
For sure.
So, what I was saying is, we done rambled off there, Steve, but we'll come back into it.
We chased a rabbit.
Yes,
call
sir.
that taking a rabbit path, but we'll get back to the main trail here.
Yes, sir. So, now everybody and their mama's done heard of this dog, Merchant's Tree Blaster.
Oh, yeah. I hunted with his litter mate, Nathan Ed's Zip dog, Zip female. White Oak Zip.
Of her.
Yeah.
She looked good.
Tree dog. Of course, Tree Blaster was known for that, but don't you tell the story. This is your story.
So I couldn't tell you who got the breedings off of Blaster, but they had collected him at some point in time before he passed. Mm-hmm. And they did a breeding on a Lipper female, and I don't have her papers on hand, so I just know that she was Lipper bred, and I believe her grandfather or great-grandfather is bone collector, but so that is the dog we call Helen. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see her up and down, left and right. She just treats them coons like she's supposed to, Steve. And I got her about coming on 2 years ago now. Jeff Story, he lives in central Michigan. He called me and said, "Hey, man, I got a female here. And, some guys around there said she wouldn't do much." I said, "Okay, well, send her on down the road." So she was here the next week. She come in heat, and I couldn't hunt her for a month. So I laid her up. I took her out with a boy, Donnie Davis's son, Cole Davis. He hunts with me right good too. I took him out with him, and we were sitting there on the edge of old beaver pond. I mean, it's a big beaver pond. And I said, "Man, it's getting cold. Let's go ahead and head to your truck, take her somewhere else." And about that time, we get up and turn her lights on. Helen just rolled up on a tree and started treeing. And I said, "Whoa, hey now." I look over to Cole, and he said, "Man, she's doing some treeing." So we turn our lights on, and I'll be danged, Steve, if there wasn't a coon up that tree sitting right next to us. She just pulled up and started treeing. And
bringing it home. I like those that tree close to the truck.
I'm telling you, Steve. It makes it easy, don't it?
That's right. Well, let me jump in here real quick. You're on Facebook. They find you where? At Tom Gilroy?
Yeah, so that's my personal page. And then I have a quote-unquote kennel page. Anybody can share into it. I'll invite or accept anybody who wants to be in it. I'm not prejudiced against any other color dog or style of dog, but my Facebook page is Yadkin River Coon Dogs.
Okay, folks, that's spelled Yadkin RADKIN. River Coon Dogs, right? Is Coon
Yes, sir.
Dogs one word or two?
It's one word.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And then your personal page is Tom, Tom,
Yes, sir.
Gilroy, Gilroy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, folks, you want to connect with Tom on social media, there you go. Well, go right ahead now and tell us about Helen and the rest of the story.
Yes, sir. So basically, after that night, it was ups and downs. She wasn't but coming to and hadn't been messed with a lot. So it was more or less of a puppy in there. And, we had nights of ups and downs and not treeing coons or treeing possums or whatever have you, just not good nights in my opinion. And then we had great nights. And I went and visited my dad, my brother, me, and David Bailey went and visited Jimmy at the Grand American a few weeks ago or a month ago or so. And after I brought her back from that trip, boy, Steve, she was clicking. I mean, every tree you walked to, just about, you were looking at a coon or a hole. And I ain't told nobody this, but she had a vet problem. I took her to the vet 2 weeks ago and got charged an arm and a leg to cut an abscess out of the back of her mouth where I was in there letting her tree on some coons and getting a video, and she come down off the right side of that tree and caught a stick in the back of her throat. So, Yes, sir. I've been laying her up for about a week and a half now and giving her medicine every day. So she's looking a lot better, but that's why people haven't been seeing her recently. But I keep chasing them rabbits, Steve.
That's all right. That's all right. That's the beauty of these podcasts, Tom.
Yes, sir.
They're not rehearsed. There's no script. We just talk dogs, and that's
Yes,
what
sir.
I love about it. So you go right ahead.
So I got Helen going pretty good over the summertime, right before summer, and I had them breedings off of Champ. And again, this isn't Jimmy's Champ, just one we called Champ.
Mm-hmm.
I had her bred to him. I drove down to North Carolina at Block Sport Hounds, and that lady will do you right, buddy.
Okay, spell that for me, Tom, if you can.
BLOCKSPORT Hounds, and I believe the lady's name is Kristen Block.
Okay.
And she's the real deal. I had her artificially inseminated, and 2 months later, she had 13 puppies, Steve.
Wow.
Yes, sir. 11 of them lived, but she had 13. And if anybody gets on Facebook and follows me, you'll see the puppies out of her. I call him Yadkin River Virgil.
Okay.
And he treated his first coon at 6 months and 2 days old by himself, not turned loose in the wild.
Yeah. Well, those Yadkin River dogs have such a rich history going back.
Yes,
and we've talked about it with Jimmy on this podcast before, with old Tom and Jeff and Champ and Chico and all those dogs right on down the line there. And it's such a strong family of dogs. And, of course, most people out there in the coonhound world that are not from North Carolina or that region of the country probably best know Yadkin Tar Rattler as, being a Yadkin River dog. But, where I come from in southern West Virginia, that was a staple, a byword, so to speak, in coon hunting was Yadkin River dogs.
I got you. And I'm going to give credit where it's due, Steve. My father, David Gilroy, that joker pushed me harder than anybody could ever imagine. He put me through the roughest, toughest stuff and had a good hound to go behind him. So I want to give, before we get into a little too much detail, I want to give my dad a very warm thank you for putting me into this sport and showing me what a real coon dog could be, because I wouldn't be here today without that.
Well, Tom, that's and I appreciate that so much because that resonates with me. I've been around this coon hunting game for a long time. I started as you did, as a young man,
Yes, sir.
Probably around really seriously going with my dad on a regular basis at about 6, 7 years old, although I went the first time when I was 3. But, having a father as a mentor, as someone that, most boys like to be with their dad, and
Yeah.
my heart goes out to guys out there that don't have a father that is involved in their life and involved in
Agreed.
the things that they like to do. And I think we could look to a lot of social problems that we have in this country, without me getting up on the soapbox, is due to the absence of an engaged father in that boy's life.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so you were indeed blessed to have your dad. As I say, I've met him. I never seen your father without a smile on his face. he is one of the most pleasant, fun guys to talk to. And when you walk up to a guy and you shake hands, and of course he's tall too. I know where your brother gets that height.
Yeah.
But you just, this, you immediately like the guy. And that's a lot to say to all coon hunters out there. Here I go. We're going to go down a rabbit path here, Tom. I think it was John Wick that wrote a column, a year or so ago while he was still writing for American Coon, talking about why coon hunters never smile in a photograph. And he said, man, you've won a bunch of money. You might have won a truck. You might have all this stuff. And you're standing up there like you lost your best
That's
friend.
right.
Or you got this game face on. And, man, this coon hunting thing is a blast. It's a lot of fun.
I agree, Steve.
Do you?
Yes, sir. I smile in every picture, every single one.
I know. And it's like some of these guys are just... like that would be the cardinal sin if I smiled in this photograph.
Yeah.
I got to look as mean as I can, No. But some people, just haven't learned the value of a good smile.
That's right. It'll take you a long way.
That is for sure. And young man, that's one of the things I noticed about you right off. I said, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree here because, I always remember that, recognize that with your dad. But Tom, and we can get back to these dogs, and I do want to talk to you more about them. But I wanted to talk to you because you're a young man. You're 21 years old. I became married when I was 23. When I was 21, I was just out of college and getting ready to go into the military, and all. But I was very much engaged in coon hunting at that time and really loved it and went every opportunity that I could. What is it? But beyond your family and your family's dogs, what is it that you find so attractive about coon hunting?
It's a good question, Steve, and I really appreciate you asking me. I would definitely say it's got to be that locate. A dog can sit there and tree, and the next one can do the same thing, but not every dog has a locate. And that Helen female I got, she's got a quadruple chop, and then she rolls over into her tree bark. But it's the locate, and it's more or less, a lot of guys will tell you they like seeing them puppies come on and do real good and stuff like that. But me personally, Steve, and it might just be because I'm young and dumb, but I like seeing coons. You know what I mean? So,
oh yeah,
I like taking a puppy and seeing them do very well for themselves, and in time they might make a good dog. But I like seeing them coons, and it's not because I like shooting them out or getting money from them or nothing. But I go to work and get paid to do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? And I want that dog to do the same thing. If I'm taking you to work, you're going to do what I want you to do, and that's tree coons. And that's just a personal preference for me. I like them to have a big mouth. And as you were saying, what is it solely that I can go back to and just think about and pinpoint one thing I like about them dogs? It's either got to be that locate or just how sheer big a Yadkin River hound can be. I mean, it amazes me, Steve. It really does. Look like cane corsos out there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they are big dogs. A lot of stature there, substance to them for sure. And as most people know, but maybe some of the guys that are just coming in the sport may not realize that, how much these Yadkin River dogs played in the background of the Sackett Junior dog, and Frank Giddings' dogs. And you mentioned Frank, and of course he's a dear friend of mine, and just absolutely have always enjoyed going up to Michigan and hunting with Frank and all. But there's something there that runs within the heart and soul of every houndsman, I think, and especially those who are kind of born into it, it seems. My mother used to say it's in your blood. There's no hope for you. You're just like your dad, she'd say. And she was the one that coined that phrase. It was a typical phrase that people use for all kinds of things, but she used to tell my dad all the time when she'd look at all the dogs he had out back, and she'd say, "We've gone to the dogs."
Wow.
And that's where I got the title for my book and the title for this podcast. But truly I did at a very early age, as did you. And it's just something really that's down deep inside us, isn't it?
And it makes you different, Steve. A lot of people I talk to that are older than me, they'll say, "Man, why ain't you out drinking? Why ain't you out partying and enjoying your life?" And I just sit back and tell them, man, it makes me different. I don't want to be out there wasting my life away drinking and doing stupid stuff when I can make a name for myself. And I'm not looking at coon hunting as a career or nothing like that, but being able to have a dog that'll go tree coons and you get to come home and look forward to that, there is nothing in this world that can compare to looking forward to going and treeing a coon. In my personal opinion, everybody's different, but I like going coon hunting, Steve. I really do, man.
Well, it showed from the first time that I spoke with you, and then I've followed you since then in social media.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, and it shows. It really does. And for those of us who really down deep love it, there's just sometimes it's very hard to describe, but it's
Indeed.
a feeling that exists inside of us. And you touched on something there that resonated with me. You said, make a name for yourself. It's not about maybe winning the most world titles or winning the most new trucks like Randy Smith just did, he and John Strickland. But it's in having the recognition among our peers that we are houndsmen. We know the sport. We walk the walk. We talk the talk.
Yes.
And there's just a good feeling to be part of that. I don't want to say fraternity because there's a lot of women that feel the same way. But there's just a sense of pride in being involved. And, I could go into this on so many levels. I can remember as a kid just getting my first pair of Carhartt overalls, which is what we wore back in the day when I started coon hunting. That was your trademark as a coon hunter. If you had a pair of brown duck Carhartt overalls. Now, John Wick kind of spoiled all that when he came along and made those nylon bibs and then the frog legs and all that stuff. But there was just all that sense of belonging, of identifying with the sport. Do you feel that too?
Oh, and no doubt, Steve. Like I said earlier, it makes people look at you differently. Like, man, what does that joker go through every night going to them dogs, And they get to just go home and go to sleep and get up for work in the morning. We're out there 4 or 5 hours a night putting work in on them dogs. And I want to touch on something, Steve. I listened to that Pup Training for Dummies podcast you did with Bill. And I want to say, when you said that as a whole, training these dogs, we really don't do a lot of training. And I want to commend you on that, Steve, and say that has got to be the most truthful statement I've ever heard as far as training a puppy, because like you said, we'll do, stuff here around the house, like leading, loading, tone breaking and stuff like that. But as far as putting them on a raccoon, we cannot run that raccoon for them. They have to do that on themselves. So they're teaching themselves more than we ever could. So I want to commend you on saying that. That was a very good statement.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom, but I've always felt that way. As I mentioned, I think on that podcast, we look at bird dog trainers, we look at various other trainers of working breeds, and they kind of have a protocol they go through. And I've met the great bird dog trainer from Oklahoma, Delmar Smith, and how he used force training for retrieval and those kind of things. And there's a lot of hands-on training in some of these dogs, and my friend Heath Hyatt with his police dog work and all of that. But the genetics, allowing, providing the opportunity for that dog to do what God and genetics put into him is
sir.
Our responsibility. And I think the main responsibility we have as stewards of these dogs is to take them out there where they can shine, where they can do what they were intended to do.
Say that again, Steve.
Preach it, as they'd say back home in the hills. Yeah, well, I believe that and always have, and there's no substitute. And this is for the new hunter out there. You can go and buy that well-bred puppy, and you can do your homework and talk to a lot of people and read the reviews on the pups and all that stuff. But there's no substitute for you getting out there in the dark every opportunity with that dog, and let nature take its course. Sometimes I think to this point, Tom, and I've gotten into this a lot since I've been podcasting, and that you get a lot of questions. So then you're expected to answer the questions, and you're supposed to provide methods. And why is my dog leaving the tree? Well, if you'll do step A, B, and C,
I got you.
But sometimes I have to check myself, and I'd say, well, wait a minute now. You got to make sure that these are tested and true methods that you believe in before you throw them out there for somebody. And I have found, and I go through this with my partner, Keston Jesse. Keston is a young hunter, has not yet gotten involved in competition hunting, and he catches a lot of flack from my other partner, Mark Miller, about the fact that he's not out there competition hunting his dogs. But
I'm not either, man.
Right. And you don't have to. I will throw that in. But, a lot of questions come back. And I tell Keston, I say, you know what? We just really need to take a time out here with this pup. Just let that pup go be a pup, until those genetics kick in. And then when they do, and then when the dog is running and treeing and doing it consistently, then we'll address issues. If we have things we need to address with that puppy. But there's just no substitute for hunting them and letting them do what they were bred to do. What do you think?
I can't agree more, Steve. And, there's some places that have more coons than others, and it's easier. Like you go to Michigan, man, I think Jeff Story said it best. He said, man, we got so much coons, you got to kick them out of the ditch and throw the dogs in there after them. So in a place like that, it's bound to be easier to get a pup started.
It is. I can testify. Yes.
So what we deal with down here, we live on swamps. We hunt nothing but swamps. So,
you're on the eastern seaboard there. Do you have any salt marsh in that area, or is it freshwater or saltwater?
Up in the eastern part, it's called Eastern Shore. They have some salt marshes there, I believe. Mm-hmm. But down where we live at, it's completely freshwater. And I didn't mean to say we only hunt in swamps. 9 out of 10 times, we're turning loose on the edge of a swamp. Now, the other one time, it might be on a little field or something, but it's going to end up in a swamp somewhere. So, best thing that we can do, and I recall, I can't necessarily recall the guy's name that was on your podcast with you and Billy about the pups. He said something that I liked. He said he'd walk them puppies around them ponds. That's the same thing you do, Steve. That is the best way to get a pup going, is walk them around that pond. You know how many animals come there and feed and drink, and especially them raccoons, man. That is the best thing for them.
Coons and water go together.
Yes, sir.
Like, you bet.
So with what you were saying, Steve, I utterly agree with what you had to say. I am all for it.
Yeah,
all for it.
Well, I appreciate that, and we hope that, my biggest fear here is that I will give somebody the wrong information. I don't want to tell somebody something that'll end up, spoiling a nice pup, or spoiling the experience for the owner or the guy that's hunting. So I try to weigh that kind of thing very carefully, and I also try to be sure that I get guests to come on this podcast that are grounded, that are not just going to be throwing out some fly-by-night ideas out there.
Yep.
And I call them the Ride the Lightning crowd. Whatever you can follow a message thread on Facebook, and it's either cull the dog, or give him a number 18. On the Garmin. So we try to call those out before and not spread that kind of information. Well, okay, let's talk about a little bit how you approach that puppy when you do decide to take him out to the woods for the first time. What about how old are you starting to hunt your pups?
Okay, so just as anybody else should be doing, show the puppies at about 8 weeks to about 12 weeks, a coon or a squirrel or something, just to get them in the idea of what we're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And after about 12, 13 weeks old, I'll start hauling them to the woods, and they can't even get up on the back of the tailgate. Then they can't even put their paws up there. So you lift them up, you put them in a dog box, and it could be with their mama. It could be with any broke dog. I do not want a dog in there running deer, running foxes, running trash, and my puppy's in there learning from that. It has got to be a broke dog. Mm-hmm. And I will take them with that dog 3 or 4 nights, and then I'll take him or her by itself 3 or 4 nights. Mm-hmm. And if I see that it's doing better with the older dog, or if I see it's doing better on its own, I'll go either way. But now for the people who don't have an older dog and can't get out there and hunt with a broke dog, your buddy might have one, but it ain't broke. And you don't want your puppy to get ruined on that. Just as I said earlier, and as you said, Steve, I think you put it perfect. There is absolutely whatsoever no substitute other than getting out in them woods and walking that puppy around. You can be tired. You can be just having a bad day at work. The wife's getting on you. The dogs aren't looking good. Take that puppy in the woods at nighttime. And it might be 18 months old before he even does anything, but that's just how a dog works. I'm no, I consider myself a late bloomer, as far as mm-hmm. everything in the world. I ain't got a great job and all that, but I make do. And that's just what you have to do with them puppies, Steve. And you know it. You've raised countless puppies and litters and stuff, and a lot of them guys, they'll find an excuse. And when you find an excuse, you ain't going to get nothing done.
Well, that's right. Well, that's why I was so blessed with these 2 partners that I have, especially at this stage in my life where I've had to slow down some. Now, I don't ever want to portray the idea that I'm in a wheelchair and can't go to the woods. No, I can go get my dog, but I just don't do it at the speed or with the energy that I used to. But I was so blessed to have guys like Keston Jesse, who was the guy that we talked about on this pup training for dummies, and with Mark Miller, who Mark is a seasoned, accomplished hunter. He just had his hardwood dreamer dog inducted into the Southeastern Tree and Walker Hall of Fame.
Congratulations!
Yeah, absolutely, guy. I meant to say that at the first of this podcast. Congratulations for sure to my buddy, and He was a dog, I believe, out of Hardwood Bean was his sire.
Wow.
And big black-headed dog, beautiful Walker dog. But anyway, these guys, hunt. They hunt the dogs. They're out there with them. And, as you're talking there, Tom, we have a pup right now.
The fever dog, right?
Well, actually, Mark and I have the plot dog together, the fever dog, and he's 16 months old, and he's doing really well.
Oh, I know
that old pup, he's just, I've never seen a dog more energetic, just determination. Whatever you put him down to do, man, he's all in.
Man.
And if it's swimming a swim pond, he looks over his shoulder, he sees another dog coming, he grabs another gear.
Wow.
He's just
That's
very
hard to beat, Danny Steve.
Yeah, and he's very competitive, but he doesn't. When you turn him loose at night, he doesn't care what the other dogs are doing. If they go east, he'll go west. But this pup that Keston, Jesse, and I have, she's now 6 months old. She's a walker out of the Frogger dog and one of Randy Smith's females, Jillian. And she's the huntingest little heifer you've ever seen in your life. I mean, she goes hunting. In fact, before she was old enough to wear a tracking collar, we got concerned that she's, there's coyotes and all the stuff out there. That this pup, but she's not burning the woods up treeing coons. She will tree, and she'll tree on a drag. And last night, the Clyde dog of his treed a coon in a big cedar thicket. And, of course, I got to FaceTime with Keston. And let me get a sip of water here just a second.
Yes, sir. And if you wouldn't mind, Steve, touching on how old that female is. Because I have a male that's 6 months, he's 7 months now, and he's done treed 2 coons by himself. But a lot of people, they get discouraged when they see them young pups treeing coons rather than other pups not doing it. So touch on that, how old that female is, and let people know, she's not out there treeing coons every single night. She's just getting started, and that's good.
Well, yeah, and, we had one pup out of the Trackman dog that she just basically did not have any hunt in her.
I got
She was a natural tree dog, and her litter mates are doing great. But, we just didn't get the lucky pill or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
She's making a squirrel hunter real happy right now.
Good.
But this puppy out of Frogger and Lone Pine Jillian, she's going to make a dog. There's no question in my mind that she will, but she's definitely not, and she's 6 months old, to answer your question right now. So she's still pretty young, but you do hear these, as you mentioned, your pup there that was doing it at a younger age than that. And I believe you didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so anyway, but, we have these conversations about her, and she, I was telling this story, Clyde.
Sorry to cut you off, Steve.
Yeah, no. Clyde, the Kestons, I think Clyde's about 18 months old now, roughly.
Okay.
And I call him the coon vending machine. I mean, when you turn him loose, just put your money in, the coon's going to come out. Somewhere, who knows where. That's
right.
The key.
That's right.
But anyway, Clyde treed in a big cedar thicket last night. And Keston called me and he said, I don't know where he's got this coon or not. I can't seem to find it. And I said, well, of course, I'm always coaching him. I said, well, get out there and swing around in that field and see. You'll find that coon if you shine back in there enough and check. And sure enough, he said, well, there he is.
Wow.
And so he left him sit. But the female that he pulled out of there and left, well, she had been off hunting somewhere and gone for a good long while, and she came into that area after he had gone, and she stayed up in there for 20 minutes or so, around and around in that thicket, checking. She never could find a place to tree, but she was forevermore working that coon track around in that cedar thicket, And finally she gave it up and came and caught up with him at the truck. But that's just an example, I think, of letting those pups do their thing, but make sure you take them out there and give them a chance.
Yep. And you said something, Steve. I kind of want to go back and reiterate on it. You said that she didn't run the track or find any place to tree. And a lot of guys will think, well, man, my dog didn't say nothing and didn't do nothing. We must have had a bad night. But you said something that caught my attention. You said she went in there with nobody else being there or around that area. And for her to just have enough confidence and ability to go in there where that dog was treating and the human being knows there's a coon in there, at that age, that is sheer progress, in my opinion. She may not have treed, she may not have ran nothing, but she smelled where that coon was.
Oh, yeah.
So I like that about her.
It was definitely holding her attention for a good long while, And but she'll be fine. I have every confidence. She certainly isn't lazy.
Yep,
that's for sure. Well, what's your plans going forward? What you got going on right now? What dogs? If you go tonight, what are you taking? What's going on?
Yes, sir. So I don't want him to be mad at me for saying it too soon or anything like that, but I got a puppy back from Jimmy Meeks, and I want to say before I get into this that Jimmy Meeks is, if you ever get the opportunity to talk to him or meet him, and I'm not speaking to you, Steve, the listeners, if anybody ever got a chance to meet or talk to Jimmy Meeks, please do it. He will have you laughing. Oh, man, he is a real nice guy, and I think he's the reason that we even have Yadkin River dogs, the Gilroy family. I mean, we had dogs, but we bred them to Jimmy's, and that's where we got ours. So I'm gonna give credit where it's due again. Jimmy Meeks, you are the man, buddy, and thank you for creating this bloodline. But I'm gonna get back to saying, so I got a puppy back from Jimmy, and it's the biggest puppy in the whole litter. I call him Kane, and his littermate brother, I call him Virgil. And as you know, the night they drove old Dixie down, Virgil Kane is the name. Yes, sir. That's where I got it. So
okay, great song. Great song.
Yes, sir. So tonight, I ain't too sure. I might take that little puppy I got, Virgil, and he treed one last night by himself. I said earlier in the podcast that Helen had that abscess in the back of her mouth there from that stick, so I'm still laying her up for another week or two. So more than likely, Steve, it'll be that little male puppy I call Virgil.
And how old is he now, Tom?
He is 7 months and 3 days old.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, but as you were saying, where I kind of want to go with this, main thing I want to see out of the Yadkin River of today's world is calico ears. Everybody's done gotten away from that. I don't know what happened or why they stopped liking it, but I've always loved a calico ear walker.
Now, did the Tidewater Tidewater Shep dog, Powers' dog, did he have calico ears?
To be honest with you, Steve, that was way before my time.
That was Billy Wolf, I think.
Billy Wolf. Okay.
That had that dog. Boy, I tell you what, I'm peeling back the layers of this old onion here, and, and sometimes I get a brown piece.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, I don't know. I think, so yeah, the calico ear dog is something that you used to see fairly. Yes. Often, and I think maybe some of that, came down through maybe not the same strain, but the stylish queen female, and back of the whitey bred dogs, stylish clover dogs, and all, they had some of that as well, and that goes all the way back to the old foxhounds, some of the Julys and some of that, but. Yeah. So you kind of you want to dip back and get some of that history in your dogs, huh?
If I could, now I like Jimmy's dog, Chico, and I just like the way he treat. I got videos of him that Jimmy had videoed way back in the 90s, I believe it was. And if I could build a dog today, and I mean just out of nothingness, out of Yakin River, I guess you could consider, I mean, nothingness would be just create one out of thin air. If I could do that, we had a female here that was off of my dad's cruiser dog. Her name was Yakin River Polly. She had calico ears, and I'm talking about the brightest red head I've ever seen, and just white and just beautiful, just big bone, big body, big head, and a calico ear. And that's really what I want to get back to, Steve, is them big boned, white calico, big mouth ear dogs. That's what I want, man. That's my goal.
Well, that type of dog and the bigger dogs, and of course Jimmy hunted, for years there in all that water there in North Carolina.
My gosh.
And the bigger dogs like that have always seemed to do better in the swamps.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you hunt in swamps. Now,
Yes, sir.
in the mountains where I grew up, where it was real steep terrain and all, the smaller dog, the 55-pound dog, the wiry, light on his feet type dog seemed to excel. So these different types of dogs, were developed in different parts of the country.
I see.
Yeah. So you're going to find that most of the bigger dogs, and then, of course, you could also say the dogs out in the extreme west on the very dry ground out there, some of those dogs were large dogs as well that were used for dry land or dry ground lion hunting. And, of course, the nose went with those dogs.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they had bloodhound roots. They certainly had some old line blue tick
Had to be something.
English type dogs, But yeah, well, I get that. Well, the point there to be made is that you have a goal, and put that goal out in front of your dogs and say, this is what I want to breed to.
Yep.
These are the points. I know you want ability first ahead of that. I'm having a lot of trouble here with my voice, Tom. Help me out.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I just want to touch base back. Like a lot of guys, they see them dogs that are treeing coons at 4, 5, 6, 7 months old, even up to 8 months old, and they said, "Oh, I got a 6-month-old here, and it won't even bark at a cage coon or let alone run a drag." So I just want to talk to the listeners and say, please do not get discouraged when a young puppy isn't doing anything. And that's not saying it'll be something or it won't be something. But you have got to, as Steve said, you have got to put that time in. There is nothing in this world that is going to make that dog better than you taking him to the woods. It ain't got to be every night. And you don't have to hunt 9, 10 turnouts. I hunt a minimum of 3 turnouts a night. And sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, depending on what the dog does. So just take them, small steps of improvement for what they are, and keep that pup in the woods. It might take a long time, and you might not want to deal with it. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of people, Steve, that just give up on dogs too early.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, that's been an age-old thing, Tom, with people that just don't have the patience to let the pup develop, or maybe it's the idea, well, I'll try that one. If it didn't suit me, I'll grab another one. I knew some guys. I still know these guys, and I could mention their names, and I respect them. They're hard hunters, or they were back in their day. And, they would go through a tremendous number of dogs. Culling. They didn't have time. If the dog didn't show it right away, get rid of it and get something else, I don't think we have that luxury today. There aren't as many hunters. There certainly are puppies being bred, every day. But I think our chances of getting a good-blooded pup are a lot better today than they were at any point in history. I know some of the old-timers may not agree with that, but I believe that there are a lot of good-blooded pups out there available, but there are no shortcuts to developing that puppy into a coon
Not at
dog
all.
that you can be, proud of.
And you could learn that the easy way or the hard way, whichever way you want to take.
Oh yeah, the school of hard. The old saying I liked. I thought it was funny. If you're going to be stupid, you got to be tough. Well, we can be kind of stupid about these dogs sometimes.
Yes, sir. No doubt.
That electronic collar is a wonderful device at times, but when a guy uses it for the dog to come here, and then he uses it again to make the dog go hunting, and then the dog's caught in the middle, knowing what does he want me to do? Does he want me to come here or go yonder? And the dog doesn't know. When you push that button, there's no message that goes along with it that says the reason I am shocking you is because you came in off that track. No, the dog's not going to understand that. And
they're not like us, Steve. They don't got a brain like us.
They really don't. But they are a very smart animal and something that we're very much
appreciative of.
Yeah, we are. We appreciate them, and we also are very blessed to have them in our lives. Tom, we have been at this about 55 minutes now. And I thought an hour would be, because we are sharing this podcast this week with Randy Smith. I just want to, anything on your mind, on your heart that you thought we would talk about, or you would like to talk about, we've got plenty of time for you to do that, son.
I just want to thank you first and foremost, Steve, for giving me this opportunity to come on your podcast. I know you have a well reputation, and for you to reach out to me and want to do a podcast with me, that means the world to me. So I just want to thank you for that. And I also want to, I've said it 4 or 5 times, but give credit where it's due. All these guys that talk to me, give me calls, like Ed Hammond, Chuck Fonville, David Knight, I could go on and on and on and on. Scott Tilson, just Danny Parrish. You know what I mean? Just go on and on. Just there's a lot of guys that support me and what I do, and I just want to give them a big shout out for always, liking and commenting and sharing and seeing what I'm up to. I think a lot of them guys, they see how young I am, and it puts a fire in them that they put in me when I was a little kid. Jimmy Meeks lit a fire underneath me when I was 6 years old that nobody could put out. So, I like that. I do, man. I like hearing the seasoned hunters, commend me for what we're doing, and it feels good, Steve. So that's all I want to talk about. Just give thanks to everybody, really.
Well, Tom, you're that kind of guy, and that's what attracted me to you, to bring you on the podcast here, and because I think you have a lot to say, and there are young hunters like you across the country that have a lot to say, and it really behooves the old guys like me and my contemporaries to listen to what you guys have to say, because you have the sport now. We've passed the baton to you. We may not have quit, but if the sport's to go forward and to progress at all, it has to be at the hands and those strong legs of young fellows like you that are able to get out there and continue to develop these great breeds of dogs and continue with the sport. It's not going to be easy going forward as we experience shrinkage in hunting lands and attitudes of anti-hunters and landowners and all of that. So we have a job to do. But, here's the way I feel about that. yes, we can do a podcast every week and talk about the game laws and talk about the anti-hunters, and we can talk about the things we face and how we ought to be more involved legislatively and how we ought to do this and how we ought to do that. But unless that fire for coon hunting that you and I have talked about on this podcast is instilled in the hearts and minds of these younger, fresher, stronger hunters, unless we get that seed planted down there deep where it'll grow and it will flourish, then the sport will die no matter how many state houses we go to, how many senators we talk to, how many landowners or farm bureaus or whatever. And that's all important. I'm not belittling that at all. But unless we create a love, a genuine love, way down deep in the hearts of younger hunters,
yes, sir.
then the sport will go away. And I got a pretty good feeling that you've got it down deep.
Oh, I'm trying, Steve. I'm trying, man. And I also wanted to touch base. You say a lot about younger hunters. My great uncle Gordon Gilroy, he sadly passed away in 2005 in an unexpected car accident. And
right.
Yeah, he had three
Real
children.
Tragedy.
Yes, sir. Yep. And a lot of people, reached out to my dad and our extended family and send their condolences. So thanks everybody for that. I was only 4, so I don't remember much then, but I do know he was a hard hunter and is the reason that Maryland and where we're at has Yak and River dogs. So, but his grandson, his name is Ty Willett. He is 10 or 11 now. I can't be too for certain, but I know he's one of them too. And he's been going hunting with me. He's loving it, man. He loves them white Yak and River dogs, and he loves the same thing I do. Hearing them locates roll out, he said, "Man, what's that?" I said, "That's a locate."
Well, now, really, you'd run him out of the family if he didn't love Yak and River dog, wouldn't you?
That's right. You know it, Steve. You know it.
Go ahead,
That's
Tom.
right. But no, you're good, Steve. I just wanted to. I doubt he even has a phone or is able to listen to this, but Ty Willett, you are a hard hunting son of a gun, and I can't wait for you to grow up and get yourself a hound.
There you go. Pass it on.
Yes,
it's a
sir.
heritage that's been passed on through the generations. I mentioned somebody on Facebook was talking about hound hunting, and that wasn't a hound hunter. And I said, it goes back to George Washington in this country and beyond.
Yeah.
Farther back even than that. So it's been a tradition down through the years and it passed on, and thankfully it's still going on. Well, Tom Gilroy, you have been a great guest today. It's been a terrific hour. It went real fast.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and I want to get a promise from you that you'll come back on because I want to hear about the progress of Virgil and
yes,
what's the other one's name, the pup?
I call his brother Cain.
Cain, okay.
Yep.
I heard of Cain and Abel, but Cain and Virgil, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, young man, I appreciate you so much. I hope you'll say hello to your dad and your brothers for me. If you're talking to the old wild man down there in North Carolina, tell him to give me a call now and then. Just let me know how he's getting along. And listeners, I've really enjoyed this hour with Tom Gilroy, and I know you have too. And I hope you'll check him out on Facebook, Tom Gilroy, or Yadkin River Coon Dogs on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
Is that right, Tom?
Yes, sir, Steve. You got it.
All right, brother. Well, you have a great time. Get out there in those Maryland swamps tonight. Listen for that locate now.
Yes, sir. I got you, Steve.
Okay, Tom. It's great to visit with you. You have a good one, buddy.
You too, Steve. Thanks again. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Friends, that's going to end our podcast for today. I appreciate so much you tuning in. Once again, I want to thank our dear friends, Buddy Woodbury, Jason Doobie, all the staff at duhuntingsupply.com. Actually, dusupply.com is the web address. These guys have got everything and anything that you may need associated with your hounds and hound hunting. Give them a try. You'll be glad that you did. I will say that I still have copies of Gone to the Dogs, A Coon Hunter's Journey, the book I wrote about my experiences over the years with 3 different registries and all the coon hunting that has been involved dating back these 76 years now. So at any rate, you can get those, and I also have a few of the Gone to the Dogs trucker-style hats in black or green, and they can be found at stevefielderbooks.com. That's going to wrap it up this week, folks. If someone asks you, where's Steve Fielder, tell him, well, he may be up there with Tom Gilroy in those Maryland swamps, but one thing's for sure, he's gone to the dogs.